Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on THEOSOPIA, Esoteric Studies, I'm proud to bring you the one, the only Setna of Khemet of the Neteru temples. Greetings, Setna. How are you?
Life, health, and prosperity. I am doing great, and I am in witch mode because we are in the season of the witch. It's October, and I'm in heaven. I love that.
Very good. I love October as well. October 31st is Athena and my own anniversary. Uh,
Oh, you can't get that wrong. My oldest friend and his wife were married at the House of the Seven Gables in Salem, Massachusetts, on Samhain also.
oh, awesome. Yeah, it was a favorite holiday for a variety of reasons, so we figured why not.
You better like candy corn.
Of course, some candy corn, haven't eaten it in a long time, but
I never liked it. I always thought it tasted waxy and overly sugary.
to many it's a tradition.
Oh, I know. I'd rather have um, an apple or something. I'm weird that way. I've I recently lost 35 pounds. I've
Congratulations.
got another 10 or so to go. The stomach is almost gone. It took me 5 years to put it on, so now it's just coming off, and I'm proud of myself.
I'm proud of you too. We have to have you on the Herculean Physique show with the Heroes Quest for Optimal Wellness. Uh,
One of these days, I'll have what I want as far as that goes. Right now, I'm not still happy with me. I also, you don't see them yet, but I also got new teeth coming in.
oh, that is
I
awesome.
needed them. Well, because I was sick, I lost a lot of teeth. So, and I'm very open about that. I should be dead, and I'm not.
I'm glad because now you're
Mhm.
here with us and you're doing awesome things. Now, I've been working on very many projects as of you, and now some of them are starting to flower. So it's time to get them up and rolling. One of them is I have a new show called Olympian Paths. And although
Oh,
that's going to focus on people who have pretty much focused on and are working with the Hellenic pantheon, it'll also speak with individuals like yourself who have certain elements of the Hellenic pantheon in your particular life path. And I know you have a close relationship with Zeus and several other important figures. So I'll probably
yes, let's not forget Hecate.
Anakati, and so I'll be inviting you to that show as well, and we'll be talking about it. And for this stage of the journey, I need a voice for Egypt, so you're going to be my voice of Kemet. So in all things Egyptian, I will consult you.
I will walk like an Egyptian in Hellenistic shoes.
Very, very good.
Well, since I like Jason, I'll only wear one sandal.
Help all ladies cross puddles
Halfway.
halfway. So tell me about all the wonderful things you're doing. There's a website, there's a
Yes, Pernateru Temple is pernateru.com. There is a webmaster who's working on creating that. Also, there is phoneawizard.com, which is my workspace for my services. The classes in Temple A, B, C, D, and E will be done on the pernateru.com. Yesterday, well, today's the second, right? Yesterday, my article on Egyptian magic came out on Today's Witch, which is an online magazine. So you can look for that. Edward Sott is the producer of that, and he is a very well-known pagan high priest, and he invited me to first be on the show like this, and then fell in love with my writing. So I am now a member of his writing staff.
fantastic. I'm happy for you. What is the first article about?
The ancient Egyptian gods, the primary gods and goddesses of Egypt, the Neteru, but they are called the Great Anid, which are the seven major gods and goddesses that people know well: Ra, Isis, Osiris, Horus, Nephthys, Set, Thoth, and Ta, and talks about their power and their worship and how their origins, and also the origins according to the Egyptians of the universe.
In Greek, an that means the nine.
Oh, that's interesting because that's where there are nine of them.
So you're starting with like Egypt 101, which is a great place to start. And
Yes.
what the classes did you have planned?
Well, there again, I have local classes with people that are here in Savannah, but I also have my online classes. Those are witchcraft 1, 2, 3, basic, neophyte, advanced, adept, and then we go further from that. The ancient Egyptian traditions are going to be the onlooker, the person who comes in, the entrance person. Then there'll be someone who is a little more advanced, who's a neophyte, who will be just inside the outer temple. Excuse me. Then you have scribes and musicians and artisans, and those are called journeymen. And they're just the beginning of the temple. And there's a book called Herbak, which is by Aisha Shawala Darubitz. What a name. Oy. Uh,
Chickpea, right?
Chickpea, yes. Herbach means chickpea means herbach, which means horse head. Anyway, that goes through his journey from becoming a little bratty boy to a high priest, and that's kind of my own journey. So that's why I like the book. I went that way, not in a past life, although probably yes in a past life, but as Michael, Setna of West. Michael became Setna of West because he was Setna of West to begin with, which is kind of cool. But so my classes will go from those beginning things all the way up to priests, priestesses, scribes, high priests, high priestesses. Those people are going to be the ones that are in a ritual ceremony. Will be wearing the I'm going to call them shawls. I don't want people walking around in dog and cat and hippopotamus and rat, snake, whatever mask. It's kind of hot to walk around, especially around here, walk around in those masks. Besides, it's a little passe, don't you think, to wear those things when we can wear a shawl, which will have the hieroglyphs on it, which will tell you who you are and tell people who are initiated who you are.
That sounds incredible. And now, this is a question coming from ignorance, but it sounds, by listening to your description, that you'll be using a Wiccan or neo-pagan framework for what you're doing?
No,
No, okay.
absolutely not. We are totally not Wiccan. We are totally not neo pagan. I am doing things according to the ways of the ancient Egyptians, the way they did things, not the way these modern peoples. Forgive me for being ancient, but I'm sorry. I'm tired of hearing, well, I worship Zeus, Hera, Cheeseburger Deluxe, and I don't know, maybe several other guys. And they don't know what they're talking about. And I mean that way, but I don't care. I want people who are dedicated to the gods and goddesses that are working with us. I do have one other group that is, I guess, on the milieu of the Wiccan. They are a council, which will be of very, very many different traditions. I have people that are involved in Gardnerian. I have people that are involved in Santeria, in Hindu magic. Some that are just clairvoyant. There are two that are necromancers that are right there in New Jersey. Actually, I want them to be introduced to you. They are wonderful people. There's a fellow named Oswaldo Vajni who is an amazing necromancer. He goes to a particular mortuary and to a mausoleum, and he has friends there. Of course, they've been dead for many, many, many years, but he feels their energy and he consults with them on various and assorted matters. That sounds very ancient, but that's what he does. One of the other gentlemen is a very powerful clairvoyant. All he has to do is look at you, and he can tell you everything. The third in that particular group is involved with Hindu magic. And he works very much with Lakshmi, Ganesha, Vishnu, and Shiva. They are so these people are a conglomerate, and I have people down here that are working with, as I said, Santeria and African magic, and Western European magic and things, and also people that do work with the Hellenistic vein. So but they're all together and they're all learning from each other, and this I think is beautiful. We have all these people from all these different walks of life, and I'm encouraging anyone who wants to be part of that. That's just called the Circle. And that will be a group. It's an international now. Also, I have people from Japan and from Egypt, many, many, many people from Egypt, and also England and Scotland and Ireland, and Germany and France. that have joined me, and of course, Newark, New Jersey, among all
Sure.
those other beautiful places.
Yeah, I applaud that. When I did the first Age of Heroes in New York and then in subsequent Ages of Heroes, we welcomed people of all walks, whether they were in tune with and following divine beings or whether they weren't. And they were just people who wanted to accomplish the same goals. And we'd have social goals that we worked on together. And we had vampires and werewolves even in there amongst with feminist Jewish people, Catholics who were very devout. We had mythical spirituality people of all stripes, including, of course, myself, and people who were not able to dedicate their work to the divine were able to dedicate it through the Age of Heroes and do something good for people in the society around them. And it was great. It's based on the old Argonauts. We had the children of many warring gods and the children of no god at all getting all together to accomplish something great together. So I applaud what you're doing.
I want to tell you something. I didn't remember this till recently. You used to also work at um, what was called Manhattan Cable at one time for once in a while, didn't you?
I was on Manhattan Cable. Yes.
Yes, you were. And you had on fur cuffs and a fur vest, and
Yes.
your chest was exposed. And I bumped into you when I was doing the Magical Mystery Tour with Herman Slater in 1991. And I remember you. You had long hair and bushy beard, and you were Hercules. But you weren't Hercules, you were Thor. And that was so cool. And I
I was
remember
Thor the
you.
Barbarian. Yes.
I remember you. It was so funny. I was working through some old things the other day, and I said, "Oh my God, that's Hercules." Oh, duh. I remember because you looked more like Conan, I thought. You had that
Thank you.
Conan.
I'm honored. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have when I was very young, there was the idea that was in Herodotus and other writers that the gods were known in different places under different names. So my entire life, in a sense, has been exploring the different names of Hercules and seeing how they were in each culture. When I first started my career in the neo-pagan things, and I was in the Fellowship of Isis and Circle Network, I used the Greek spelling Iraklis, and that was the form of the name that I was using then. And for most of my life, actually, so yeah, and I did film some things around Herman's magical child.
I know you did because I was there. And that's what's so funny. If I show you old pictures of me, you're going to go, "Oh my God, yeah."
There
Because
you go.
I had no beard. I was very skinny. And there was more hair. There's no hair anymore, but there was plenty of hair. And I was just weird. I was going through different things and I said, "Oh my God," you get a stream of consciousness. And I saw this and I said, "Oh my God, yeah, that's Hercules. I've got to tell him, I've got to tell the fans out here and the viewers that was 1991 or 1990. Herman had begged me to do the makeup and hair for the show. And also, I was on many times promoting my Egyptian temples and the coven I was working with because I did both. Being hereditary witch, hello, look at this. Um, we had, I had that going on too. It was very hard skating in between two worlds. I was a witch and an Egyptian magician, and I had to meld them together, and it wasn't easy because
I imagine not.
the Long Island witch community didn't like the fact that I was the Egyptian, and that's what Herman Slater called me. I was the unusual Egyptian. And anytime anybody had a question at Magical Child, I got a phone call. I mean, we didn't have cell phones back then. We're talking about the 80s and 90s and late 70s. So I mean, my mother would say, "Oh my God, Michael, that's that Herman guy again." And he'd be on the phone. He'd say, "Michael, you got to come to the shop. I've got these hieroglyphs. I want to see if they mean anything." And he would look and they didn't. A lot of times they were just garbage. But there was one, I'll never forget this. We were taken down to the West Village and there was a huge altar, a stone altar that someone had stolen basically from um, a dig, I would say. And it was a private altar for someone like a priest or a scribe, as from what I remember. And you could see all the way around it there was the foodstuffs that were the offerings, and on the front there was a hole for flowers or what have you, meat and things, and then there was one other one for oil and another for water. So they were, it was beautiful. There, if you go to the Metropolitan Museum, there's one that's similar. That's, I think it's 14th Dynasty, but this guy, they had gotten it. I was furious. I wanted to tell them it was fake, but it wasn't. It was the same. It was made of rose granite, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I was so jealous. I wanted it, but but they had be nicely acquired it. I'll be nice about it. But I was mad because I could see it was real. So there's a lot of things like that floating around all over the world that have been bothered. Do you know that the backbone of Osiris and the inner temple's holy sanctuary um, are in the Louvre in Paris? There was a very famous archaeologist, Egyptologist called Seti, and she worked on the mortuary temple of Seti, and she worked on in Abydos, the temple of Osiris, the very oldest, most powerful temple of Osiris. And she never got it finished because that piece was in the Louvre, and it still is.
Oh,
It's kind of
awesome.
a,
That is a great story.
well, it's a true story. That's more important.
Now, do you remember? I remember because I was in the human services at the time, as well as doing my thing in the wider world. There was the satanic panic, they're calling it now. Those were very good. That was my first entry into politics, by the way. Started contacting politicians and explained to them why they were talking about not being able to send letters in the mail if you were a pagan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I contacted politicians like, what the hell are you talking about?
I mean, I got censored by, I had a correspondence from 1972 to about 79 with Olivia Robertson, who, of course, was the high
Yes.
priestess of the Fellowship of Isis. We got to be very close. Carol Gonzalez also knows her very, even better than I do. They had a real personal relationship. I had a correspondent relationship with her, but they had opened my mail because they saw Ireland and Temple of Isis, FOI, and the Fellowship of Isis. And they were looking at things. And I could tell because the envelope had been steamed open and
Yeah.
reclosed. And half the time it didn't close right. What was really nice was after a while, I would write my letters back to her in hieroglyph. And she had a translator. She didn't read hieroglyph, and she was able to read what I was writing. But it was kind of annoying to them because she knew I would write things, certain things backwards, or I would write them in Egyptian but in French,
Hmm.
or I would write them in Gaelic in hieroglyph. So they, you look at it and you go, "What is this mishmash?" It was an interesting time, though, and I agree with you. It was bad. I had a terrible fight with, talk about Satan. I had a very bad fight with Anton LaVey in Magical Child. We had a knockdown, drag 'em out argument
Really?
about witches and Satanists. Um, I don't want to get into it now because I'll probably get zapped. But I believe that people in the medieval period and before that were burning people at the stake who were worshiping. I saw such and such with the devil. Well, anybody who knows anything about witches and Wiccans and magical people of those ilk, we don't worship the devil. Satanists too. They worship Satan and they worship the devil, the Christian devil. And that's what happened. Anton LaVey was a Catholic as a child, and he was beaten the crap out of by nuns. And he said, if this is what Jesus is about, I'm going the other way. So that's how that whole thing happened. And I said to him, so hundreds and hundreds of people were burned at the stake for being witches, and the ones that they were really after were you guys. And he went, now hold on here. And we went at it. It was a Donnybrook. But I'm right. They were worshiping, they wanted people that worship the devil. And as you know, pagans don't.
No, and again, it's a very strange subject. Like I've been sharing from my youth in Greece among the people who were like not the village people, but people who lived in villages and things like that. There was a story that Christ became a war god because Ares killed him and assumes his visage because Paul came over and talked on the Ares rock near the Acropolis in Athens,
Mm,
and that's where he drew attention to he calls it the unknown God, but it wasn't the unknown God, it was the unacknowledged God.
mm,
So in other words, if something good happened to you and you don't know which God helped you out, you thank the unacknowledged God because somebody up there, whoever you are, thanks. I appreciate the favor. So that got woven into a sermon, and that opened the door to Christianity coming to Greece. So on his way to Greece, he was waylaid by Ares, who killed him and wore his guise, and that's why Christianity became a warring religion. And this was told to me by Greek villagers,
mm.
not once, but several times. So the story was a common story.
I love being mischievous when somebody I'll sneeze and someone will say, God bless you. And I keep saying, well, I'm pagan. Which one?
I asked the insurance companies that when they said that some damage we suffered during the flood was, what do you call it, an act of God, and I asked them which God, so I could
Mhm.
take it
Yeah.
up to them. Yeah.
I love doing that to Christians and Jews and Muslims. Which God? I have several hundred I worship. Actually, it's more like, I would say 40 or 50. I mean, it's funny, but every time an archaeologist goes into a tomb or a temple, they find a new god or a goddess. There are 9 or 10 serpent gods and goddesses that I know about, and they just found a new one. So they
Yeah,
haven't.
the mythic imagery is as varied as human experience and human culture, and it's also very highly individualistic too. A lot of the imagery we have of divine beings or celestial beings comes from the consciousness of individuals who channeled it or had a vision with it or experienced it in some other way. And that's a fascinating study. That's one of the studies I've been in my whole life, just the different forms that certain energies or certain powers take to the people who experience them. And in Greek mythology, in one of the myths with Dionysus and the birth of Dionysus, it's said right out that the gods are beings of light who can shapeshift into whatever form they choose. They can be whatever they want to be.
I found that this is very similar in all traditions. Um, One of the greatest ones is the Hindu traditions, because those gods and goddesses have been known to look 100 different ways. And I think that, if you don't limit your deities, if you just say, well, you know, like people say, oh, Isis always has gold wings, or Horus always has a falcon head. It's not true.
No, it's not.
You can find pictures of Horus as a man. You can find him as a falcon. You can find him as a, believe it or not, a griffin. And there are all different forms that they take. Sometimes he even takes the form of a young lion. So, and Hercules does that as a lot,
It's a
changes
lot.
forms. Yes, when he became divine after his labors, he was able to change forms all the time. He didn't just go fly up into the heavens as a constellation, as some people think. I know that as a being, was able to change forms, which I find marvelous.
Yeah, I find
Many.
it marvelous too, and the forms that they take they communicate something. And oftentimes it's very highly personal or individualistic what they're communicating through how they appear.
One of the things else I'm doing is a theory of mine, and I mentioned this to you on several other shows, that I believe that the gods and goddesses were actually starry beings that were maybe possibly aliens. I do believe that. Um, my my trigger was probably the people in World War II who worshipped planes that saw them
Like
flying overhead.
the cargo cult, yeah.
Right. And so I thought to myself, well, if someone from another dimension or another planet dressed in a certain way came down and was talking to people and they didn't really understand the physicality of their spacesuit, let's call it, maybe that looked like a cobra, maybe it looked like a cat, maybe it looked like a lion or a hippopotamus, or a crocodile. Maybe that's what they thought it was, and so that was their way to identify it, that Subek wasn't a crocodile, but it looked like a crocodile. You're talking about primitive people. The Egyptians, gods and goddesses, show up in the first dynasty, the beginnings of Egyptian history, and they're perfect already. So we know they had to come from somewhere. Who taught them how to do that? Who said that Bast was a cat? Who said that Horus was a falcon? Somebody saw something and said, oh, that's this deity. And also, they were considered immortal. And as I said before on another show or what we did, relating it back to the modern movie Zorro, um, Zorro got older, and he trained another Zorro to put on the mask and the hat and the cape and do the whole thing with the whip and the sword and stuff, and was in the same situation. So people looking at him would think Zorro was young and virile again. It was some magical trick, not realizing it was another person trained. And I do believe that was true of the gods and goddesses, or is true, forgive me, of the gods and goddesses. That maybe there's a spell ritual where Isis gets her powers, gets stronger powers by Ra. And it says that Ra is old and drooling. And some of his drool fell on the ground. Isis took it, molded it with sand, made it into a snake, and bit him using her magic. And she got more power by getting his name in the words of power. So if he was old and drooling, you know what I mean? And he knew that he was not doing well anymore. And they say by when he gave her his powers, that part of his energy went into her womb, so that when she conceived Horus, he's a falcon, just like Ra. He doesn't look anything like Osiris. He's not green, Like Osiris is green, Isis is gold. How come this kid comes out like a hawk? A
Back in
peregrine.
back in the day when I was doing like witches festivals, I was doing Ishtar Fest for a few years, and one of the things I did was called Mythic Gods and Ancient Aliens, or ancient astronauts, whatever the term was in use at the time. So yeah, I love that theory and I love exploring it. There are a lot of indications that they might be aliens or might have been aliens, or some of them might have been aliens. And there's all this star lore that sprung around the mythic gods that also equates them with the night sky, with the planets, with the constellations, and so forth. As you pointed out, Hercules is a constellation, and it immortalizes his quest for the golden apples of the Hesperides, and he's near Draco the dragon and the lyre of Orpheus. Those are all symbols that are right there in the same portion of the sky. So that's a possibility. I have a book in my library that came out a long time ago that believed the gods were vampires. And
Oh, brother.
they even had Hercules in there among the gods who were vampires, but Osiris was in there too, if I remember correctly. And they made a case for the fact that the ancient gods were vampires. So there are many different ways of approaching the gods and apprehending the gods, and they're all worth pursuing. And I would put more credence on the gods being from outer space than being vampires. But it was an interesting read.
I mean, if Hansel and Gretel can be vampire hunters, and so can Abraham Lincoln, I
Yes,
guess, I guess that could
even
happen.
Jesus of Nazareth, there was a Jesus Christ vampire hunter movie.
Mhm. But
indicated.
and Abraham Lincoln, I'm waiting for old Mother Hubbard to come out with a ladle and a gun. It just got silly to me. But there are hieroglyphs in the temple of Dendera, which is Hathor, and also the temple at Philae, which is Isis, which talk about those goddesses coming from near what would be this Sotis, which is the dog star, which is the
Mhm.
no- you know the north and the North Star. And Isis said that she comes from that area, from the dog star, that area. Also, although they say Osiris and Isis are brother and sister, that's a dynastic thing. Um, Osiris comes, they say, from near the area of Orion's belt. In many of the hieroglyphs, it says so. So how can they be brother and sister if they're from different solar systems or star systems? It's kind of interesting. But there's all those things, and they say that Ra came from behind the sun. Yeah,
Yeah, there were
yeah.
some theories that there's another planet on the other side of the sun equal to the Earth. So it goes in the same orbit, but it's on the other side of the sun.
And then you have gods like Ptah, Ptah, and
Uh-huh.
Thoth, who just sort of sprung up out of nowhere. They just sort of they were self-created. How about if it was a beam me up Scotty thing? That they just all of a sudden the god was, was energized from some spaceship and bingo, there he is. I thought about that too, we, again, Earthlings were kind of new to everything, and they're looking around and seeing more advanced beings that, again, I always talk about hieroglyphics being a perfect language from the beginning, first from the pre-dynastic times even till now. They've always been the same. There was no evolution of that language. A hawk was a hawk. A cat was a cat. The fire was a fire. It was always written the same way that it's been written for thousands and thousands of years. But it was perfect. It came out of wherever it came from, perfect. And that to me means somebody taught them that. I mean, when we were in school, a teacher taught you how to do A, B, C, D, E, and then you also write in the Greek alphabet.
Uh-huh.
So, but that's what I mean. Somebody taught you that. So it stands to reason that somebody taught the Egyptians hieroglyphics.
Yeah, there are a lot of remarkable things happen in a short period of time in that part of the globe, and it is very uh, tempting to look at it through that lens. Another lens that people look at the ancient myths through is lost civilization, and you can say Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, whatever, Pan, Suvia. There have been many different designations for it, but that there was a civilization before the Ice Age that was pretty
Yes,
widespread.
I've been watching, because I'm retired now, and in between clients, I do take a lot of readings and things, but in between clients, yes, I do watch a lot of these documentaries. And
Mhm.
I've been seeing that they think there are pyramids under the glaciers in Antarctica. Um, of course, George Tsoukalos said that there are pyramids on Mars too, and other such things, and pyramids on the moon,
On the
and
moon,
a
yes.
sphinx and a
See
sphinx on the
photographs.
moon. The thing is, that's a crater, and we haven't never gotten up close to it to take a look at it. I mean, someone did an experiment with that. They were talking about the lunar surface, and then they did a close up of somebody's face with the pores. And oh my God, look at the craters in the moon and this and that. And it was somebody's face. So, I mean, we don't know what we're looking at.
No,
We
we don't.
really don't. So, we don't have close enough pictures that are not pixelated to death that show us exactly what that is. And I'm in a lot of ways, I guess I'm an ancient alien theorist too, because I have all these thoughts. I think being involved with magic, you want to know, and I'm funny. We know that, but um, magic and science to me go hand in hand. I mean, I believe that the earliest doctors were herb people and people that learned to look at Imhotep, the king Imhotep. Forgive me, the ancient Egyptian scribe who was also the architect for the step pyramids. Okay, he taught people how to set bones. He did brain surgery, literally brain surgery. They were
Definitely, yeah.
doing dentistry. They were doing things they couldn't possibly do, and they were doing it. This man was brilliant. It is his writing that was in the Alexandrian library that Hippocrates studied. So although Hippocrates is considered the father of medicine, I look at Imhotep because it's his work that Hippocrates was studying. He studied at the Library of Alexandria. Back in those days, everybody did. That's the
Yeah,
one good.
the whole region did that.
Yeah, everybody. People until the Christian Romans destroyed it. It was an extremely, extremely powerful resource for the world.
It wasn't just the Christians. Julius Caesar burned it down too.
Well, he did it the first time because he
He
was
did the
kind of
first time.
trying to kill Ptolemy and the rest of the people just so that they could do nice for Cleopatra.
A lot of those books are still hidden though, and people know where they are. Like if you look at the finding of the books of Enoch, all of a sudden
Do
they popped up everywhere. So and
do you know why?
because certain occult orders knew where they were and hid them in different places.
Let me tell you something that you might not know.
Okay.
The Ptolemaic Library of Alexandria was a lending library. So when the boats caught the library on fire, a lot of the things were not in the library. Many other things were locked up in stone cabinets, which weren't going to burn. The library itself was wooden and marble. The marble parts didn't burn, obviously,
Hmm.
and so that was fortunate. Also, Cleopatra was a academic, and many of the more powerful, more important books on magic and different things like poisons, we know she was good with poisons and potions and things, were in her palace. So that didn't get caught fire too. So that was fortunate. And those are some of the things we knew. Also, the Islamic peoples, and this is true just before the Renaissance, were bringing things out and showing the Europeans, here, if you do this, this, and this, you're going to heal these particular diseases, or you're going to, this is going to be this kind of alchemy and things. It all came from what they called was the Middle East.
Yeah,
So,
they valued these things at one point, as Europe did during the Renaissance, when a lot of these hidden or obscure texts started to come out, and people started to publish them in the languages that existed at the time. It's a shame that those things need to get buried or hidden at all, because humanity winds up in a dark age, full of ignorance and superstition, until they can come out again.
what made me laugh about the Julius Caesar and the Library of Alexandria is he's always been portrayed as only a soldier. Well, Julius Caesar was a writer, not a very good one. If you read his things, his grammar is terrible, but he was an educated man, and I think that he knew what the Library of Alexandria was, and I don't think that he burnt it on purpose. I think he did it because, as in one of the movies, it says some of the um, burning timbers fell onto some of the houses, and the library was close to the harbor. So that's probably what happened. But
That's what I heard
unfortunately,
happen too, that it was an accidental, he was doing something else that was political and soldierly, and that the library caught fire because it was nearby.
well, he was trying to destroy the Egyptian fleet so that little Ptolemy and his creeps wouldn't be able to block him in because the army of Mithridates was coming, but they were coming this way. And this way. They were coming from what would be Libya, and they were coming this way from the Arabian Peninsula. So the only way Caesar had to get anywhere was through the sea. So he had to burn the ships so he could get out if he had to.
Yeah, those were interesting times. And then the imperial cult that made the Caesars into gods.
It's a mess. But if you think about it, Hercules, almost all monarchs from the time of Ur, from Hammurabi up to or Ashurbanipal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all of them always thought of themselves as ruling by divine right.
Right.
Even King Charles now rules because he is a God anointed king. He is anointed in the name of God, and he is God's representative in this case in England. What is the Pope? He's a king, and he's a king of the Christian religion, the Catholic religion. He is the descendant of Saint Peter. He is the lineage of all the way back to Peter, they say, is his, where he wears his crown. That's how he gets his crown. The spiritual energy has chosen him. It is exactly the same as the Dalai Lama. All of those high figures have that particular touch by the gods. They are, or by the
Right.
god, it depends on what you believe, but they all have that. And the pharaohs did too. Pharaoh was a god on earth. He was Horus when he was alive, the living god of the present and physical form. And when he died, he becomes Osiris or Anosiris. So they all thought that too. It's not, you know, the Egyptians were no different than any other religion or any other culture at that time. They were all doing that. The emperor of China thought he was a god on earth. He also took most of his court with him when he died.
Yeah, a lot of those kings did. It was if you were part of the
Yes,
household,
yes.
you burned in the fire, got buried in the chamber, or whatever happened to the body of the king.
Yeah, I mean, well, the emperor had all his concubines strangled, and they're laying around. They haven't gotten to them yet because they haven't gotten to that part of the tomb. But they found because there were too many, he couldn't kill 5 or 6 thousand soldiers, so they made those beautiful clay statues.
Hmm.
And Egyptians have ushabtis, little spirit figures. They have hundreds of them because you can't kill all your servants. You could run out of servants doing that. So they made the clay magical figures that would come to life when the pharaoh spirit said, "Hey, I need you."
And you need to keep your kingdom strong after you go, or no one will remember you, and no one will do the rites to feed you or give you energy in the afterlife.
Well, isn't that true even in the Greeks I mean, the Greeks tended to cremate their um rulers, right? And so did the Romans. But they also had tombs as well, depending on where it was.
And the snakes were the souls of those inside the tombs, especially the heroes, and they were fed and taken care of. They were chthonic, and they belonged half of them to the underworld.
I know in Egypt, they how many tombs have they gotten into where they find cobras? Not stuffed, no, somehow those snakes have gotten in there because I hate to be disgusting, but not only are there beautiful artifacts in those tombs, but many times there were rats and mice, and of
Yeah,
course that's going to attract a snake.
of
And
course.
scorpions and other horrible things that go bump in the night. This is the season for things that go bump in the night. I will be doing, and I will tell everyone here, I am a very good medium. I've got hundreds of recommendations if you wish. Um, I will be doing a lot of mediumship work, connecting the living with the dead from now until probably the winter solstice, which I think this year is December 21st.
That is awesome. I used to do that in the 70s.
Hmm.
I was the medium for a small theosophical group, one of Blavatsky's esoteric groups that she had, and the medium that it was, I guess, who was the predecessor was George Wayner, who wrote The Curious Life. He was friends with Talbot Mundy at the time, even though they became enemies a little later. And he was best known for his channeling of Rudolph Valentino, and Natasha Rambova was part of his circle.
Interesting.
So I did that for a while and I stopped doing it. And recently, an opportunity to do it again came up, and it's like, no thanks. Been down that path. I got other things to focus on right
Well,
now.
I told you in the 1920s, my grandmother and six of her sisters were called the Barth sisters,
Yes.
and they were table tilters, and they knew Blavatsky very, very well. Um, she she never believed Rudolph that Houdini would ever return. She said, "No, no, no, no. He's not going to come back." And I don't know why people keep doing that. He's not going to come back. His spirit is too busy chasing his mother and his wife. And this is many years after he died. And they were like, "No, no, no, no. He's not coming back. He's looking for his wife." So, and I think that was a cop out, too.
I learned something new.
She was an interesting woman. I mean, I don't know why she called her book Isis Unveiled. She sat on top of Mount Everest for a while with a guru, and she came down and she had this vision, this amazing energy, and she did say that she thought it was from Isis, but from the Himalayas, which is interesting.
Well, those were the Tibetan masters,
Yes,
obviously the
yes.
great souls, and Isis Unveiled and the Secret Doctrine. Of course, they're in my library. They're remarkable documents, and it's amazing that somebody for whom English was not the first or second or third language wrote those books in as short a time as she did with her tomes. She also wrote the Keys to Theosophy. She wrote numerous articles for their magazine, which was called Lucifer at the time. And she started a Theosophical Society. Theosophical Society helped India win its independence from Britain. So a lot of stuff she accomplished in a short lifetime.
Sybil Leek said that she thought she was her reincarnation. Somebody pointed out to her that she was alive at the time of before Blavatsky's death, so they didn't think so. And she said that she felt that Blavatsky's soul bounced into her body, and that, like I say with Conwest, that there was a joining of the spirit together. And maybe that's true. I mean, Sybil Leek was a brilliant, brilliant magical person and a great high priestess, a wonderful author, as was Blavatsky. So who knows? Maybe that's what happened. They looked very much alike.
Maybe stranger things have happened.
Well, we know about Stranger Things, don't we?
Yes, yes, we do.
I get them all the time here in Savannah. It's a very haunted place. We were walking, there's a park, it's called Skidaway Park. And what a name. Sounds like you're in an accident. But Skidaway Park is an island. And we were down there doing our Lamastide ritual, Lugnasad ritual. And it was, the woods around us were extremely haunted. We kept seeing lights and energies and orbs and things flashing around us. And it was very quiet and very dark. And it was a very interesting experience, unlike anything I felt when I was living in New York City. When I was living on Long Island, on the other hand, we had what I called Hecat's Woods, Hecate's Woods. And that was a place where my particular grove, coven, whatever you want to call us, would work together. And it was a secret place. Nobody knew about it. There were tree lines in front of it, tree lines behind it, and on the sides of it. It was a kind of invisible square, and it had an old, huge tree stump, and that was our altar. And it was a very magical place. You don't find that much in suburban Long Island, but there it was.
Yeah, lots of great stories. Unfortunately, we only have 15 more minutes, which is plenty of time for what we were getting together today. But I want to schedule you for some other shows to pick up on some of the conversations we had here. When I was on Spiritual Unity Radio Network, long before Mount Olympus, the E station came aboard, or the E channel now, I had shows on ancient aliens all the time. And I interviewed Zachariah Sitchin's family members. I interviewed all sorts of people who had written books and so forth. So that's one of the things I'm bringing back now. So
Good.
I'll definitely schedule you for that show as well.
Well, I've had a lot of experiences with the ancient gods and goddesses, manifestations and such,
Hmm.
as well as channeling sessions, which I know you have as well. But I've also seen a few, I'll call them extraterrestrials for want of a better name. I don't know what they were. I do know that they were not like me or you. And they had energy and they didn't talk, they used telepathy, which of course is a higher form of communication.
Hmm. Yeah, there are definitely intelligences that are not humans associated with this planet. And we have stories of them and depictions of them throughout human history and throughout the globe. And people still experience those things today, including yourself, myself, and very many other people.
We have quite a ring of people around us, all the members of your crew, and I'll call them our Herculoids. And we are, well, we all have stories to tell, and we've learned things paranormal, supernatural, extraterrestrial, and yes, we do have stories to tell. And I think teaching those things to people so that they don't get lost is what this is all about. Giving, putting these on record, telling people what we can do and what we are doing is very important. And thank you for giving me this opportunity
Oh, my
to
pleasure. Thank you
use a
for being such a
platform.
wonderful guest. And that is the value most, like I have a monthly meeting. You attended one or two of them while you were still here. We have everything. We have Masons, we have Templars, we have high priestesses, we have all sorts of religions represented. We have sorcery. We have all sorts of people with different backgrounds. And what they all seem to find in common that they like is the fact that who can you talk to about this stuff? So here they can talk their minds and be themselves. And
Mm.
that's very liberating. When I used to do it in the libraries and in other institutions as well, that's what people would say, that they've had these experiences their entire lives, but they have no one to talk to. If they tell their family, it's like, oh, you're crazy, or stop lying, or, or people think you're nuts. So they don't talk about these things. But with informational things like shows and presentations and sessions and things like that, people get a chance to open their minds and open their hearts to the ideas of a bigger world.
You know, just as a quick thing, my mother felt that way about me. I had a manifestation of the Archangel Michael, who told me,
Mhm.
I think at 4, that I wasn't named after an archangel. I'd never heard of an angel. My mother wasn't a Christian religious person or Jewish or what have you. She didn't have any interest. Mostly she was doing housework. And for this creature, this amazing energy form to come to me and tell me that I was named after him, I thought, cool, but who are you? Because I didn't have any reference yet. But that was the thing, that's something, and I'm sure many other people have had those kind of things happen, and that's what we need to share. So again, I thank you for that opportunity, and I would be willing to share whatever people want to know that I can help. That's my job. Being a high priest means that I'm a servant of the temple, but I'm also a servant to those who follow the temple. And so my job is education and information.
That's all of our jobs. And I'm glad that you realize your mission and that you're very busy fulfilling it. And you've also been writing more than magazine articles. You've been working on books, and you've been appearing in the books of um, Xandar Press, I think it is, Zontar Press.
Yes, yes.
Schwartz
Tim Schwartz has, I think now he has 2 books where I'm in.
and Sean Castile, yes.
Yes, and I've got those. I'm going to be, as I said, I'm going to be a running author on Today's Witch, which is Edward Sott. You should get in touch with him. I think he would love working with you too. And I'm going to be published for my grimoire, which is the ancient Egyptian book of Setna, which has
Awesome.
got all my spells, all my rituals, and the things that I've learned over the years. It's a compendium of herbs, and I don't want to get into it. It's too complicated, but that will give people things. Also, I'm online now because of Neteru.com, and also phoneawizard.com. And I'm going to be with you till they close the lid on my sarcophagus.
Well, thank you. I'm very grateful.
Thank you, sir. So there is a lot. I didn't have this much going on when I lived in New Jersey or New York because I was working. Being a bit retired now, if you want to call it that, I'm busier now than I was when I was working.
Yeah, I'm semi-retired. I'm doing a lot of Greek mythology things, educational programs with like game elements. So kids get to be ancient Greek heroes and participate in the myths, and they learn about the myths and the heroes that way.
Satori was talking about that kind of thing. That's a world I don't know that much about, but he does. And he was talking about games involving the Morrigan and Hecate and other spirits and gods and goddesses. And he said he spoke to you about this already also.
Yes, he has, and he's actually published a few of them through the online gaming supplies. So I have to check those out one day.
I have a friend I sent a sigil to everybody whose name is Alexander Bathory. Now that's an interesting history. Very
Yes,
quickly, Alexander Bathory's great 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 grand aunt was Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess. For real. So he has a real vampire as an ancient ancestor.
and yeah, Elizabeth Bathory came up a few times in conversations over the past couple of days. So now she came up again. So I wonder what that's all about.
I don't know, but that's his last name is Bathory, and he's Hungarian, and so that's his ancestor. She had 6 brothers, thank God, or goddess, if you wish. That he's descended from them. He doesn't do things with blood.
That's a good thing. Very comforting.
I think so.
So you've kind of like really thrived since moving to Georgia.
Very much so.
And now you're establishing yourself online and you've become quite a presence online and you're branching out and the branches are sprouting leaves and flowers and stuff like that. Any grander vision you'd like to work on or that you
Yes, and I've got a GoFundMe which went nowhere. I'm trying to physically I'm going to reach out to everyone. I'm trying to get a funding for a temple, a physical temple, which will be a place of worship, a sanctuary, but also a place for education. I don't know where I'm going to put it. I think Savannah is why it chose me. There's plenty of space here, and it's easy for the world to get to. And it is a beautiful place. But so I'm asking for help. We need funding for the sanctuary, for the temple, and it's a place where all peoples can come and worship, and that's what my goal is. As a high priest, my goal is to build a temple that people can come and worship at. So please, folks, if you see this, please help.
and where can people go to find the GoFundMe page?
It's on GoFundMe. It's right there, and it's called the Neteru Temple. Give me a second. I can find for you.
Sure.
Um, just get me get. This is the good thing about my phone. I can do a couple of hundred things at once.
I'm
Gee, gee,
still
gee, gee, gee.
prehistoric in my understanding of the technologies.
No,
So
I'm good. I'm really good like this. I
yeah,
never. I don't know how I learned, but I did. Actually, my late husband, who yesterday was his would have been his 53rd birthday.
I put hearts on your announcements. Yes,
Yes, I saw. I did.
happy birthday.
Um, This is Pernateru. It says, help Pernateru find a permanent home. And I'm going to look for the link. Hello, where are you? Whoever. Anyway, if you go on the GoFundMe page, you'll see it. Or you go on my, if you're on Facebook or you're on Instagram and you go on Pernateru or you go on Michael K. Waterman, you'll see it. It's there. I'm trying to, this is not helping me. I'm trying to find some kind of a, um, a thing you can look at. But if you go on my Facebook page or my Instagram pages, you'll see it. It's there. I'd like to see the link. It's not giving me. It's not giving me the actual link itself.
It's on Facebook
Oh,
though.
there it is. I got it. It's
Okay.
GoFundMe slash um 678 dead 7. So GoFundMe.me/678 dead 7.
Okay, awesome.
I didn't even realize that was there. And because I mean I'm sort of good at this, but I'm not what my husband was. He was incredibly technically talented, you
Yeah,
know.
my wife is that way. She can figure all this stuff out, and so she does it.
Couldn't clear the kitchen table, but he could certainly set together a website.
I think I can do that and clear the kitchen table. She's an excellent person.
It wasn't that way. He was a very sweet man, and I miss him horribly. But, and this is 4 years. He'll have been dead since October 4th. It'll be 4 years now.
Mm,
So this little thing in here, the blood valve chamber is still quite bruised.
of course.
But so that was all I would ask of someone. If they have an ability to help, I would ask, please. I do want to do this. I'll take over a school. I'll take over an old building. I'll take over, a storefront, as long as I can build something that people can come to. Where we need it desperately. And if this is the first one and it's a success, I can do more.
In the interim, if you can't hold the services in your home,
I do in my garage. I
oh,
have a
you
very
are
large garage. Yeah.
okay, awesome. There are also places like Unitarian churches that I know some people have their services there, but this way they start building up services and gathering the faithful together, and that leads eventually to getting a building or a place of your own.
On that note, the local Unitarian church is very closed that way. They have a pagan group, a cups group, that meets there, and they're not really very reliable, and so the Unitarians are not that pagan friendly,
Okay,
oddly enough.
unfortunately. Anyway, I'm sure that when the opportunity is right, it'll come up because you've been having tremendous luck with what you're doing.
I manifest, I know how, and I can help other people that need that as well. That's something I manifested this apartment. I
Yes,
manifested the ability to get here. So I know how to do these things. But like Thelma said in Chicago, I can't do it alone. And to build a whole group to build a temple takes a village. So I'm
yes.
asking the village for help.
May the village respond and help you out.
Thank you.
And may you bring something to the world that it sorely needs.
A good pizza.
Okay. And are there any closing words you'd like to share with our audience or any other contact
I
information?
just want to wish you all a great season of the witch. If you need any help with spiritual contact and uncrossing things and anything metaphysical or paranormal that you don't know what to do with, please contact me either at Michael K. Waterman at Facebook.com or the Neteru at Facebook.com or Phone a Wizard at Facebook.com or MKW at iCloud.com or call me directly. I am absolutely open to do that. It's 516-650-3691. Yes, it's a Long Island number, but I have it for so long I can't possibly change it now.
Thank you once again, Setna. You're an awesome individual. And I'm very honored to know you and to be working with you. And I enjoyed our conversation very much. I'm already looking forward to our next one.
Absolutely, and I'm always glad to see you, if only on my tiny little screen here.
That's what
Bless you,
we
Hercules.
have for
Bless you
now.
forever. You are
Bless
the most dear, wonderful person I know, and I thank you.
Ditto. Take good care. And thanks for everybody tuning in. This will be posted on YouTube the day after we recorded it. So that's not that far away. And till next time, joyous journeys and amazing adventures to all. Good night.
Good night. Life, health, and prosperity.
What he said.